GemAtlas are so glad to have such great speakers with us today. Reena Ahluwalia, Romy Schreiber, Sonia Esther Soltani, and Erik, who will be moderating this webinar. We're here to talk about NFTs in jewelry and fashion. Reena is one of the world's most awarded diamond jewelry designers based in Toronto. She paints colossal diamonds and gemstones and believes that we are just like diamonds, full of inner brilliance, just like diamonds. And Romy, who is an illustrated fashion influencer, who is a globetrotter who fancies only the best of the best while wearing the latest runway looks and helps brands tell their stories. Sonia, an editor-in-chief of Rappaport and certified as an applied jewelry professional under GIA, and has a particular interest in responsibly sourced jewels and innovative design. Erik, who will be moderating our webinar, is the founder of luxury fintech and an impactful strategic leader with commercial acumen, which enables optimized business outcomes and enables problem solving and leadership even in complex and novel business situations. We at GemAtlas are so glad to have them. We are a B2B networking platform for the diamonds, gems, and jewelry industry. We help you connect with businesses and professionals around the world. You can easily start generating new business leads through our platform. There will be a Q&A button at the bottom, so please feel free to enter your questions below and have them answered at the end of their conversation. Over to you, Erik, and all of you lovely ladies.
Thank you, Nicole. Great introduction, and thank you for having us. And we're very happy to be online with a great platform as GemAtlas. And what I like about it is that this company is run by young people, young entrepreneurs, and I'm always try to help young entrepreneurs from that perspective as well. So back to the webinar. What we try to do is kind of demystify basically the metaverse and when we talk about NFTs. I think that's important what we try to achieve, and it's also how is this metaverse being used, and what are jewelry and fashion brands doing with it, and what is the potential, and also maybe more technical, how are NFTs created and what are NFTs and how can they enhance your business. And what is the connection between digital and physical? So basically, this new word, the Phygital, we're going to try to explain that. So a lot to come in this webinar going forward. First, a little disclaimer. This is recorded, and also this is not a kind of advice to buy or sell any security or any financial advice whatsoever. So we need to mention that disclaimer. So that is important to mention that. And of course, big welcome for Sonia and Reena and Romy. Romy all the way in London in the midst of all the festivities around the Queen. I mean, that's very special. I mean, there will be generations to come before we have something like that again. So hopefully you can hang on a little bit before you go back to the festivities. Reena all the way up in Toronto, and Sonia in Tel Aviv, and I think also having a big weekend ahead of you. So, and here from Miami, where we're getting our first tropical storm of the season. So I think we are covering the world quite nice. Three amazing women in this webinar, and when I was preparing this together with GemAtlas, I thought, okay, who's going to invite here? And actually, there was a very logical choice to ask Reena and Sonia and Romy, because I think you are the leading authorities basically in this world of fashion and jewelry and art, especially when we talk about exploring and developing products around the NFTs and the metaverse. So a powerful team, I would say, today. Let's quickly move on to where we want to go to, and let's go into the conversation. I would say we have a couple of questions prepared, and of course what Nicole already said, the audience can ask questions, and we will deal with them hopefully all at the end of the conversation we're going to have. So let's go to the first question, Reena. Basically what we said, how are NFTs actually created? What are NFTs? Yeah, non-fungible tokens. We know that in the meantime, and everybody's writing about it, but how are they practically applied in the jewelry and gem business? And I know you've been asked many times what are NFTs, but tell us a little bit about your experience, what you have been doing.
So first I want to say hello, a very good morning from Toronto, Canada. So good to see smiling faces, and I can feel your energy in the audience. So what are NFTs? NFTs, I think, are this huge wave on the fabric of our culture. They are like this kind of a cultural phenomena, and even a multi-billion-dollar industry already. And so, as Erik, you said, NFTs stand for non-fungible tokens, and these are either digital artwork or collectibles, or any other digital asset that lives on a blockchain. And because these are unique, one-of-a-kind digital assets, what is interesting about NFTs are that they can be bought only by cryptocurrencies. So cryptocurrencies like Ethereum. And it's fascinating because what is really behind NFTs is this amazing technology. That's the blockchain technology. And that is what enables it, for the proof of ownership, history, and authenticity. So the transparency, all that things that we're talking about is because of the blockchain technology. And I think the other part of your question was that, how they created. So, well, they are, NFTs are minted through smart contracts. And, I will not go in the process of how to mint an NFT right now, but I'll go to the other part, which is very interesting. What does it mean for our jewelry, diamond industry, or fashion industry? I think as humanity, collectively, we are in this amazing space. This is for the first time we are able to harness the power of digitization. So, and we're progressing, and we are in this moment in time. So for jewelers and jewelry, diamond and gemstone folks, we are innate storytellers. That's what we do. We tell our stories through our products or through our, artifacts that people wear so intimately. So what it can mean is that, this whole concept, when we talk about, there are a lot of conversations in the gem and jewelry trade about transparency, about, the origin of diamonds or gemstones. Where does the gold come from? Or, if this piece is unique or this diamond is rare, what makes it rare, or what makes it, so important as an asset or an investment? And all of that, now you can, instead of having too many certificates or paper trails, you can put all of that into a metadata and in the blockchain, which will live there for perpetuity. So I think that's it's an incredible feat of, I think, technology, I would say. And for jewelers and for jewelry space, this is just great. It's fascinating. And very quickly, I'll say that, just give my own example of having my NFT. So I have two examples, very quick ones. One is that in December 2021, I launched my first NFT collection. It's called the Diamondverse, like the universe of diamonds, of course. And so these are my 3D digital diamonds are in motion. So what I did was that I create these physical paintings on canvas. I animated them and digitized them just to reveal their power, beauty, and sparkle. And the second example is just recently I have launched a fundraising campaign with with Greenland Ruby. And it's really amazing because this is for the first time in the gem and jewelry space. From there's a fundraiser that is a Phygital fundraiser. So that means every donor who is donating towards conservation, climate, or towards nature, now can not only win a physical painting, but every single donor will receive a limited edition NFT as a reminder, as a token of appreciation that you contributed. So that's how I'm using it.
Yeah, wonderful. And I think, you were the first last year to indeed launch the NFTs in the jewelry sector. So congratulations with that pioneering effort, and now indeed your first fundraising through NFTs. So quite impressive. And well, you were referring actually to this blockchain technology, and the way I always see that in the old days you had an intranet. So the US Army had an intranet, the IBM had an intranet, and those intranets came together and became the internet. And the internet became the Internet of Things, with all those computers being connected to the Internet of Things, creating the opportunity for a new technology, which is called blockchain. And that blockchain technology is indeed immutable kind of data for perpetuity, as you said. And you can use that kind of technology for cryptocurrencies. We've seen that you can use it for smart contracts in trade finance. We've seen that you can use it to track and trace on authenticity. We see it with the diamond trade, with Tracer from De Beers, etc. But then a couple of artists said, well, we can also use it for art and art expression and fashion and things like that. And that is actually the NFT. So that's the way I try to demystify it a little bit and put it in perspective. So, but I think actually it's a new public space. You have the bricks and mortars, bricks and mortar in the old days, which is still there and still important for look and feel. And then we went to online. Big debate, are we going online, yes or no? And now we talk about that third public space, which is actually the metaverse. It brings me actually to Romy. Romy, you're in the fashion, jewelry, art. You have a big span of control with So Sketchy, and I'm always a big fan of yours. And when the first time I saw it a couple of years ago, your work, I said, wow, that is creative. And we have three very creative people here on the panel. But how are NFTs relevant for you and for the fashion, art, and jewelry sector? How do you see that, and why you're going into this? Because you're still exploring. Right, you're making your first steps, and tell us about your experience and why and what and how you became so enthusiastic.
Yeah, so first of all, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here, especially because I consider myself an NFT newbie. I'm definitely on the NFT journey, and the reason why I got into it in the first place was because my business was born on the internet. And I felt that this was, for me and my business, kind of the 2.0 in terms of where I can go from here. So for me, the NFT space really correlates to what I do, which is fashion illustration and digital art. So this is really speaking to me, especially because I've created characters for the past 7 years. And if you familiarize yourself with NFT art specifically, I'm sure you guys have seen a lot of monkeys and apes and hippos and cats and all the things. So for me, this caricature style of drawing, and especially this like digital style of drawing, just speaks to me on a visual level. And then when I got into the crux of it, what is an NFT? What can I do with this? It was one of the most overwhelming things I could have possibly gotten myself into. But what I felt challenging was kind of like taking a step back and doing as much research as I can in terms of listening to podcasts and reading articles and getting myself more informed, and literally Googling, certain words that I've never heard of before, and certain assets that I've never heard of before, and terminology. So for me, I found it to be like an educational challenge. And because I'm so passionate about what I personally do and what I'm seeing other people do, I find to be just so interesting, especially in the jewelry industry and in the fashion industry, where it's not art, it's more correlating your tangible items with an NFT, and how that, how that is really structured. So the NFT space isn't just one thing. When I first learned about NFTs, I knew them as baseball clips in sports. And I'm like, what is going on here? And then I'm learning about it in art and in fashion and jewelry. So I think that the NFT space is really something that everyone should educate themselves on, especially if you own your own brand, if you're in jewelry, if you're in fashion, especially if you're into technology. It's definitely something that we're all shifting toward. So I think that it is probably the most relevant. This is not like a phase or a fad. It's here to stay, especially when you see, big brands, these aspirational brands, like even Cartier, who are getting involved in things like this, and Prada and Fendi, and all the fashion labels that are kind of pioneering trends to begin with. That's when you kind of know we're staying, this is happening. So I think that it's incredibly relevant to every business, any business.
Exactly. No, I agree with you. And of course, it looks still very abstract and far away, and people don't know. But I remember, because I'm that old in the meantime, that people also said at that time, well, the internet was even Bill Gates saying that the internet would never be a success. And look where we are right now. So I think this might be even the kind of way bigger wave or way bigger development than we've seen with the internet itself. This whole metaverse and this whole Phygital kind of development. But you make a reference to those brands, and I think that's a good connect to a question for Sonia. I mean, you at Rappaport and you have a great team, and I love to work with you and Avi, and he had a great seminar yesterday as well on the diamond trends. I always love to listen to him, and so you have this overarching view. I think you guys do a lot of research and analytics on trends. And I remember a couple of months ago, the first time we started talking, you were you also had big question marks. Actually, what is an NFT and why? But now you dove into it actually, and now you're with 3-4 months further, and you start seeing the perspective. And I think that's chapeau. And so with that helicopter view you have, so why do you think this what can we learn from those initiatives from Louis Vuitton? Romy referred to it, Bulgari, this big watch from Bulgari, Kendra Scott. So what can we learn from that? What is your view there, and why are they doing this?
Thanks, Erik. Thanks for having me on this webinar with Romy and Reena. That's really exciting. So first of all, I'm not a digital native. So for me, it's exciting because, I remember the time before the internet as well that I used every day. But what I found very interesting, as you say, coming from the diamond perspective and, and Rappaport, and the values that we promote are transparency, traceability of goods. So there's something very interesting in that side, that you can actually trace things. But what I think is my side that is interested is into art, creativity, and communities. So when we mention this brand, when you mention Kendra Scott, for example, I think what she did it was the 10th anniversary of the brand, and she worked with an artist, an NFT artist, and she released a limited collection of NFTs on female empowerment. So there's something more. It's like you buy into the value of a brand, and you also get the art. And I think that was very, very interesting, because certainly it's like beyond the piece of jewelry, even if the NFT was inspired by a charm, by one of the charms she designed, but it creates this sense of community. You buy into an art, you support a young artist. In that case, it was Coco. So there's something very, very nice into that. I think when Bulgari released a limited edition watch that is connected to a QR code, and Reena was the first one, I think, to use QR codes in a jewelry, but it's also it's connected to an NFT. So you create this sense of scarcity, rarity. It's exciting. You want to keep the luxury products always exciting, always going forward. There's the space for really pushing things forward, because they have the best teams in terms of design, R&D. So, when these luxury brands do things like this, that's what I think is very interesting. And then there's the other dimension on NFTs that caught me. I think, maybe it's Reena who told me the first time, and then I had conversation with other people. It's about the community, giving back to community, giving back to the industry. So when Reena works with Green and Rubies, is to embrace a vision, is to give back to the community, is to help the Pink Polar Bear Association.
Yeah.
Is there something that is beyond just, it's not a commercial thing. It's not about getting an NFT and trying to look at how it rises in values and things like this. It's really to be part of something bigger, and to embrace the art and to embrace a specific cause. And I think, Gemfields did the same with Reno when they released the NFTs. I'm looking also HP Antwerp, when they do something, it helps people on the ground in Botswana. So, suddenly it's like people who didn't have maybe access to all this, getting back something from the process. I think that's when it becomes very, very interesting and very powerful. And I think that's when, we look at it completely differently. It's not gimmicks, and it's not, it's just not the monkeys and the apes, even if it's quite playful. I think that's also something we need to keep in mind. There's a playfulness into NFTs. I mean, Romy's drawing, but also when I look at the bunnies from, HP Antwerp, when I look at the Renos from Gemfields, they kept it very playful. because, you know, there's a part, I think the dimension is also into game, you know, like the people who are attracted, they like the games, the young people, they like dynamic things, they like, you know, a certain type of graphics as well. So it's very, very far away from the diamond industry that we see sometimes as a bit stuffy and old-fashioned. And when I say old-fashioned, I say it with, you know, love and care.
Conservative.
You know, so there's this amazing space opening where you can give back to communities, where you can support artists, be a patron of specific young artists who don't have a platform, who are just starting off. And you can also, on top of it, obviously, you know, for the brands, like let's say the Aura Blockchain Consortium that was funded by Cartier from Richmond, LVMH, and Shoppert has just joined. So, you know, we're talking like brands that have always been at the forefront of traceability, transparency. There's also, they're doing something very interesting. It's not just about tracing the repair of your Cartier watch, it's tracing where everything comes from. It's giving this extra level of information, this granularity to the consumer, the end consumer that wants more and more information and more knowledge. And on top of it, you can create special events for your customers. You can really get them into the brand identity, the brand vision, and the community. So I think it covers NFTs. That's why I'm getting really excited about them, because I can see how they fit into so many targets and so many missions that, you know, maybe before were not possible to do on such a scale and to reach such a wide audience.
No, I agree, and makes it a way more democratic process and platform than in the past. And I think this is this new public space we talk about, is this metaverse. And of course, I think if you look at Nike, for instance, going into this space, I mean, they also know that this, especially the younger generation, want to buy products with a purpose. It's not just buying a product, but it has to be a purpose, has to be a story. This is all the storytelling around it. And if you can create this extra dimension in the storytelling in the product by being part of the metaverse, working with NFTs, and always the example of having your own avatar in the metaverse, and you can dress it up with bags from Gucci or sunglasses of Ray-Ban and buy Nike's shoes and things like that. I mean, at a certain moment, if you dress your avatar with these kind of things, you might try to buy it yourself. I think that's also a little bit behind what these companies are thinking. So, and you mentioned Aura. I think it's a it's an amazing initiative. And Aura is not just looking at the luxury sector of the jewelry or fashion, but they look way further. They look at travel, they look at yachting, they look at the whole new spectrum there. So Aura is something to really to follow from that perspective. But thanks, and let's move on a little bit to Romy. I mean, some people say, well, like every fashion or jewelry piece should be accompanied in the future by an NFT. And what do you think? And we touched upon it before about is that something which is realistic, or when we look in 5 or 10 years from now, it's logical that you buy something, a piece of jewelry or a piece of fashion or a piece of art, and it comes by nature with an NFT. Is that a trend? Are we going to see that or not? Or what do you think?
Well, I think that jewelry and NFTs are the most perfect match together, actually, because with jewelry, you know, you buy it with the intent of it lasting forever. And you buy it with the intent of having it to be a potential heirloom. You buy it so that, you know, you're not buying jewelry necessarily to resell jewelry. So I think that the jewelry industry and the NFT industry are a perfect match because you want to know where everything came from. And I think that a lot of people don't understand or don't know yet that the beauty of an NFT is that you can track the provenance of everything. And I think that it's almost like it's this extra added value of your piece lasting forever. And I also just feel that it's an emotionally the same attachment that you would do when you buy a piece of jewelry. It should naturally come with an NFT of that piece of jewelry because there forever, and it's in the blockchain forever, and you know exactly, you know, where it came from, what it is, you know, it's like almost giving like your items a passport, where you just have that forever passport and it's yours forever. And I think that with diamonds and in the jewelry industry, I think that this could be just almost one of the biggest waves ever, because a lot of things in the industry are faith-based, not necessarily fact-based. You know, there's a bit of moseying around, of changing maybe the color and the clarity and the things and the properties that consist of what you have. And, you know, we know that that exists out there, and faith-based, I mean, in this new world, it still works, which is why the blockchain is so amazing. So I think that it's not just faith-based, it's more factual based. So I think that that's why it's almost like everyone needs to get on it. That's my opinion. I know that if I were to sit down with I'm from a jewelry background. My family, they have a company called Gamushin, and they're generations and generations deep into the jewelry world. And I know that I would have to probably sit them all down and speak about this for hours with them and kind of tell them like how necessary this is, you know, because it is a lot to take in. So, but yeah, I just feel that jewelry is a collectible item, and NFTs are a collectible item. And there's emotional attachment to NFTs, just like there's an emotional attachment to your own jewelry and your jewelry box. But now it's more about your attachment to your crypto wallet. So I think that it does go hand in hand for sure.
No, for sure. And I saw your mother already getting very enthusiastic by saying, I see it's so sketchy and a Gamushin NFT popping up. So
she is the best manager, I think, and cheerleader anyone could ever have.
Yeah, she's amazing. We know. No, and I think you're right. I think from the jewelry industry, especially when we talk about the gemstone industry, whether it's rubies or diamonds or whatsoever, it's very traditional and very conservative. And this is maybe the opportunity to make a giant leap forward and to become one of the most modern industries in the world by working in this metaverse with the NFTs and make that giant leap, and especially to keep the attention or to attract people, young generation would never buy jewelry by saying, hey, maybe it comes now with the story and with this whole authenticity, etc., etc. So makes it more sexy maybe. But indeed, thanks Romy. And a point for you, Reena. I mean, you did your work with your NFTs. You did a lot of studies, and actually, that's why we started working together, because I liked the way you approach things by saying, well, this is not about making money. This is about something else for me. This is something where I put, my life, my soul in as an artist. And it's also a way more fair system, because you once sold the painting for $5,000, and then the guy who bought it from you sold it later on for $50,000 whatsoever, but you never profited from that profit. So my thing is, how much more social and democratic is this for an artist like you or like Romy to work with NFTs and in that space, but how do you also protect your IP and how do you create value for those NFTs? There's a lot of questions in one, but tell us a little bit about your experience from that point of view.
So I have to say that, coming from the jewelry and diamond world, I work with physical objects, physical pieces. And for me, it was all like, I've been interested in technology. I've been interested in science. I've been interested in space exploration. So these are the things I'm deeply interested in, and I have integrated that in my jewelry collections. Like Sonia referred that, in 2014, I came up with a collection of jewelry where I embedded QR technology, and those were the first diamonds that you could scan and you could put a voice message. So I was way ahead. So that collection didn't go anywhere, but I think it was a giant leap for me. And so when I put all of that learning experience and imagination and now expand it into this digital realm, this whole door opens up. I mean, I can do many things. For example, think about that. I would love to go to space, but I, at this point, cannot. But, if there's a virtual world, an augmented reality or, powered by AI, I could. And I think all of that fascinates me. So I think in terms of imagination for any artist, that is, you're living your dream. And the other thing what you asked about was the IP, and I think this is very important, and especially for our jewelry industry, because there are copies of the designs, they are floating around. You have your collection on Instagram, the next day you have 10 pieces before you've sold even one of your piece. And what is really good about this Web3 mentality, or I would say this decentralized way of being, is that you're called out. You publicly can be called out and say, hey, listen, you're using my intellectual property. This is my trademark. Where are you going with it? And you can have a lawsuit. And why I'm saying that is because blockchain technology cannot be tampered with. So for example, if you put a certain asset, and I know there was a question in the Q&A, you see, how do you define an asset? Like, for example, a drawing could be an asset, a jewelry piece could be an asset. So if you put any of your asset, whether it's a diamond or a gemstone, onto a blockchain, now that cannot be tampered with. And if it especially has a metadata where it says, well, it's a Reena Ahluwalia logo, it is used in this way, this is the piece, and look at the provenance of the artist. That is pretty important too, or the brand or your company. And all of that comes into play. So I would say be very careful about it, be extremely careful about it, be mindful of that everything can be traceable. Like you can make 20 wallets, but there was a recent case where somebody had traded with different wallets and transferred the Ethereum and traded, and you could find out, because if you look at it, NFTs could be new, but digital criminality has been there for a long time. So I think for IP rights, it's very important to keep that in mind. And there was one of the cases, which was the Meta Birkins case. And that is still going on. There's a lawsuit that is still going on. And so there's a digital artist who created digital bags inspired by Birkins, and Hermes, the luxury brand, sued the artist saying that, well, you can't use it. This is our copyright. And this is exactly looks like a Birkin bag. The artist goes and says, well, this is my interpretation, but well, here, wait. If it looks like that, it feels like that, the shape is like that, maybe you're not right. So this is something very important, and you need to be very, cognizant of this factor as an artist or a brand, and definitely keep and also articulate, for example, the whole idea about what gives NFTs their value. So when you look at an NFT and say, why do I want to buy it? Why do I want to invest in it? Because when you buy an NFT, you're an investor, you're a collector, you're a shareholder in that vision. So how do you see this as valuable? And how you find that it is valuable is that you go back to the physical world and look at where the artist has come from. If you're talking about art, what is the provenance? They made historic imprints. Are they here for a long time? So what is the background of the brand you're talking about? And I think some of those things, even in the digital world, are extremely important, because that is confidence building, and that is value as well. So for example, if it is a rare diamond that was worn by a Maharaja and now comes up in an auction at Christie's, now we know the provenance. Maybe there was a paper trail, and now it has come to Christie's, and now they put it on the blockchain, and all of the things that we've been saying, all the photographs that were there, you can put it now in a digital format that's not going to go anywhere and cannot be tampered with. But that is a provenance. So the whole idea of traceability, transparency, and provenance, your credibility in the market is very important.
No, absolutely. No, you got a couple of very good points there. And the other thing I was thinking about, of course, I'm an ex-banker, but I'm still in the financial world. And for me, compliance and regulations and legal framework is always very important to have a controlled environment. And we also know that this whole new space of crypto and metaverse NFTs is not really regulated. It's sort of self-regulated. with the technology, advanced technology, I mean, you need less regulations, but at the same time, there's still people behind, there's still people working with these platforms, and where there's people, there's greed, and there's always fraud. So I think you have to be always still very vigilant, and it's like doing your payments online. I mean, be careful for phishing and things like that. And it's the same for this metaverse world from that point of view. But Sonia, a little bit of a different tone here now, in a way that how you see the impact of a metaverse on societies in a way, and then societies, maybe the difference between the Western world and the Asian world, and will it increase inequality or between nations? We have globalization is something which is sort of almost looks like past history, the whole globalization, and I think everybody's on his own turf these days. So would a metaverse have any impact on that society from that point of view, between what I said, the developed world and the developing economies, or is it an opportunity for the developing economies?
Oh, that's a big question, Erik.
Yeah, that's why I asked it to you, because it's a difficult one. But you have this helicopter view.
You told me about the whole world and society. Well, first, let's define the different, let's divide a little bit into this part of the world. So I think that the digital native generations in Asia, they're embracing it. They're embracing luxury. They're embracing digital. They're embracing gamification. You can see the Chinese market, the Indian market, for sure, is completely there. They're the perfect customers for NFTs. The Gucci, the Prada, every single brand, the Nike, it's a great market. So I think there's an amazing potential for luxury brands, jewelry, to explore NFTs in these particular economies that are particularly developed. Then there's the other side of our industry, the mining communities, in most of them in Africa. So what do? Like people first, they need to have digital access. A lot of artisanal miners don't even have a bank account. So, we're talking about crypto wallets, but we also have a big part of our communities in our industry that don't have access to the financial networks. Maybe there's an opportunity. Maybe there's actually an opportunity to create for them these networks, to get them to be connected and to receive much more back for what they produce for our industry. So I think in that case, there's maybe a fantastic opportunity. And I mentioned it earlier, where, when you give back to communities in Botswana, where you mine emeralds, you actually give something to people who suddenly didn't have maybe access. So I think in terms of access, there's a fantastic opportunity if it's organized, if it's done with genuine care. If we go beyond the luxury branding, if we go beyond the image building that some companies have, but they really want to work with people on the ground. And then that's where I think you can really help communities on the ground and get them in this metaverse, because otherwise there's going to be people completely left out of this adventure. Like if we talk about the high-end consumers, the young consumers, for sure they're there. They're going to be there, and they're going to promote it and embrace it. So if we want to level up a little bit, I think it's really to have in mind and to be very conscious and mindful when we create these NFTs, whether companies create NFTs or whether they create schemes, to be sure that there's always maybe a giving back aspect to it. So, and I think actually this way, if you have this giving back aspect, you're actually more likely to attract consumers, I think, to your NFTs, because they see the good, the ultimate good you can do with your NFTs. And then if we just concentrate on the jewelry industry, I'm thinking of the moms and pops, what the Americans called moms and pop stores. So what are we doing with them? Because most of them don't even have a good website, or they haven't embraced the digital revolution yet. So are they also going to be left behind? I'm thinking of some diamond dealers that, for them, blockchain is, putting them out of a certain circle. So it's a lot of questions I think we need to ask as well as an industry. Who do we leave behind and who do we try to bring in? And I think, for all the opportunities NFTs offer, we also have to keep that in mind. That there are amazing opportunities in terms of a brand. If Gumuchen does NFTs, that's already a high profile brand, they can do NFTs, but then you have all these small retailers all over the world, not just in America, that, for them is such a remote, far away world. So are we going to create two groups within our industry as well? You know, the LVMH and the Cartiers and the small, you know, like I don't want to say the 1%, because obviously there's more people that buy these brands and, you know, want to embrace them. And people were going to be maybe completely left behind because they just didn't even jump on a digital bandwagon already 10 or 20 years ago. So I think there's all these questions that NFTs are bringing up for all our enthusiasm for them and all the opportunities. I think we also have to keep in mind that's going to create, I think, different segments within our industry.
Yeah, and I think I heard the other day that I think in the UK, 40% of jewelers are not online. 40% of the jewelry firms are not online. It's probably in the US similar. Yeah.
Completely.
And I liked what you said. Yeah, I liked what you said about these, we call it the developing countries, developing economies. But from a digital perspective, these countries develop way faster than, for instance, the US and Europe. Because when you are in China, when you speak with young Chinese people, when you're in India, I mean, it's amazing that what they already do with their cell phone and with the next generation cell phones. And the funny thing is, 10 years ago in India, I spent a lot of time in India in my banking time. People said, okay, we're going to roll out a digital network for cell phones, a cell phone network. And people said it will never work because in India, the people in the countryside don't have money, so they're too poor to buy a phone. But in the meantime, there are like 1 billion cell phones in India. So no, they skipped the whole part of development we've seen in the Western world by local banks whatsoever. No, everything went digital, everything went on that cell phone, and that's amazing. So I think I completely agree with you. This is the opportunity as well for those societies, and indeed in Africa on the mining side as well. So I think you're spot on there. So I think we're getting sort of to the end of the conversation. And Romy, you when we had our first chat about NFTs after your mom did the introduction, and I learned from you and about this community building, because we did our first steps in NFTs as well, Reena and I. And I think one of the things we learned from that point of view was that building communities around your NFTs, around what you're trying to achieve is key. Can you talk a little bit about that? Can you share your views there?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I first, started to look into the NFT world, this word Discord kept popping up, and Discord was basically, for those who are unfamiliar with it, it's an online platform, which is essentially like a forum. So you as a brand or an artist or whoever you are, can update, your launches and what you're doing with your art, and, showing your roadmaps, which are basically, you as an artist, let's say, sharing with your community what your plans are. Now, all of these plans are, may not necessarily be accurate because, of course, you can shift and change, but your community wants to know what your plans are for the future in the NFT space. So the difference between buying your art on your normal e-commerce store and buying your art on the NFT world is that your customers are now involved in the tradable aspect of your art. Whereas before, it ends there. Like, they buy a piece of my art, like Erik and Reena were sharing before, someone buys a piece of my art, I make a sale, they decide to resell it, they make a sale, and then it ends there with them. Whereas in the NFT world, it's really in perpetuity. So the reason why a community in general is important is when you're in the luxury, if you're selling anything, you need a community. You need to serve your community in many ways by including them in things, and especially in the NFT space right now, it is pretty niche. I mean, I know a lot of people are in it, but compared to, so many people don't even know what these are yet. So I think that community is really important because it's also the first ever time where you're listening to a community in a way. Like, instead, before, you were just designing something or you were just painting something and you're selling it and hoping people were going to like it. Now it's a little bit of give and take. So you know, when you launch an NFT, you know, your community wants to back you. They want to invest in you. They want to collect with you. And why do they want to collect with you? Because they're drawn to you as a person. They're drawn to what your brand ethos are. So additionally, you know, a lot of people are doing, you know, having a utility tied to their NFT, just like Reena, she has a utility tied to her NFT that would speak to people in the jewelry business or people that are super passionate about what she's, you know, doing. So I think that the community, you're nothing in the NFT world without your community, like first and foremost, just like you're nothing in anything if you have a store and no one's in it. I mean, that's not good. So you need to really also include people. And I think that there's a trend that's happening right now. I mean, you started with Instagram. That was like, you know, everyone now wants to know what you're up to all day. Now there's the blockchain. Everyone wants to know where something came from. Now there's NFTs on the blockchain where it serves communities when they want to know what exactly they're buying, who bought it before. I mean, everyone wants to know like everything about everything now. So I think that for your community, use your own brand voice or your own voice to really include them on your plans, include them on your journey, include them in your creative space, include them in everything. You know, that's why TikTok is doing so well, Instagram is doing so well. It's because we all want to feel a part of what's going on behind the scenes. So I think that if you are planning on launching NFTs to your community, talk about it with them. Try to understand what they want, what, you know, ask them questions. You know, that's why we have Instagram, Twitter, all those things. So take advantage of that because it would only benefit you. And if anything, they'll feel more compelled to be in your club, like in your VIP exclusive club. That's what's the coolest part about it. So I think that community is everything. I know I wouldn't be anywhere today without my followers. So I think that it's the number one priority that I think gets missed out on a lot.
Yeah. Very important, very good. And reminds me of a couple of years ago, I was in California at Singularity University, and it was one of my best experiences in my life to be submerged for 8 days with the most brilliant people in the world, honestly, from professors to entrepreneurs. And what I learned at 24/7 was those young entrepreneurs. These guys were guys for 23, 24, 25 years old, already busy with their third startup or whatsoever, all made a lot of money. But what they did was sharing. They shared their ideas. They created their communities because somebody had a great idea and he started talking about it with somebody else. And he said, oh, but you have to talk there and there. So that created community. And 1-on-1 became 3, honestly, with those ideas. While in my time, I mean, if you had an idea, you kept it for yourself because you want to become better with it. And we didn't share. So I think this is a whole new way of thinking of community and sharing. So no, thanks. That's important.
Maybe I'll as well add something here. And this is really exciting. You know, we talk about that in NFT space, community is everything. You know, even if you look at it, and it can be very daunting, let me tell you, all of these could be words that you're listening to. But I want to say something very simple. You know, what are communities? Communities are shared values, you know, the things that you like and I like. And I always say that, you know, even 2 people is a community, 3 people is a community. So don't underestimate that. For example, if you look at any artist's work, you may just need 3 collectors in your life. And you can do millions of dollars of work, trade. So don't underestimate you know, it's almost like the Instagram game, right? You have too many followers and people previously thought that's the mark of success. Not at all. You have extremely influential people who have 800 followers, but they are, they have influence and they have the power because, you know, of the merit of their work. So when you're talking about community, I would suggest this. You and I are a community. We all are a community together. So just start from there, you know, look at people around you. If, you know, your friend is interested, your colleague is interested, that becomes a community and go from there. So I really love this point. And I want to say that we are in such a great place, with so many amazing minds around. So let's have a conversation and start building the community, even if it is small. Start from there and go forward from that.
I just wanted to add a point. Sorry, real quick. I just want to say that in terms of your community, I would pick a lane to navigate your community on. So just because you're an artist, an NFT artist, have a Discord, but you have hundreds and thousands of dedicated followers on Instagram, then that's great. Keep with Instagram. You don't need to do all the channels. Like if you're a Facebook kind of brand and everyone participates in your Facebook and you're dropping NFTs and you're sharing it on your Facebook, then stick to that. I don't think that you need everything, because when I was first navigating, who are these artists? How are they getting such popularity? Some artists were just great on Twitter. I mean, they didn't even have that many followers on Instagram, or some artists don't even have an Instagram and they only have a Discord. And I'm like, where can I see your previous work? Where's your portfolio? Who are you? What are your credentials? So I think that it's really important to really pick a lane on who and where you're talking to all these people. My lane is Instagram. That's where So Sketchy was born. So I'm going to stick with that. Of course, the tweets and the Facebook and the Discord, I'll definitely try to tie it all in together. But at the end of the day, you don't need to be so overwhelmed with all the channels. So that's really the point I wanted to make.
Very good point, Romy. It's such an important point that you made. For example, I'll share my case. I, already, with so much going on, I'm not on Discord. I do not have enough time in my day to also be on Discord. So I'm on Twitter, I'm on Instagram, and I'm on LinkedIn, Facebook, not so much. So, but yes, pick your lane and just communicate there, because your followers know where to find you. And it can be very overwhelming when you come to the NFT community that you have to have a Twitter. But you do have to have a Twitter. That is a must. And I've seen that, and this is really amazing, that I know Sonia, we both are on Twitter, and in jewelry industry, Avi's there, Rob Bates is there. So we have some amazing people, Paul Zeminski, we are always talking. However, we don't see anybody else in the jewelry industry on Twitter. And I find that interesting, because this is a platform where you can actually quickly talk, not just leave a like. So just pick your lane, as Romy said, and I really agree. And you don't have to be overwhelmed, because, for example, you don't do Twitter. Don't do Twitter. You just do Instagram. Just go with that.
I love Twitter. I like Elon Musk as well, by the way. Other story. So let's try to round up here, because I think we have some questions we'd like to cover. But Sonia, to end with this part of the conversation with you, I mean, let's put our feet on the ground now. I mean, we heard about all this. We tried to put it in perspective, put a little bit of, try to demystify a couple of things and hear from the experts. But what do you see any particular challenges? I mean, going forward. I mean, is this going to stay? Is this something which is a hiccup or a hype, or what are the challenges, and what do you see as a kind of evolution going forward?
So we have one of our good friends, a diamond dealer, who always tell us that Rappaport only brings bad news, that we should do good news. Every time we write something, you say you only write about bad news. So I don't want to wrap up this really uplifting conversation with bad news or anything, but just a few pointers about things that we should also consider for NFTs, especially of the industry. They link to cryptocurrency. So, cryptocurrencies go down, the long-term value of NFTs, so long-term or short-term value. When you invest in an NFT, what does it mean? And, to link it to cryptocurrency, you can embrace an artist, but you also have, if you also do it with a business mind, you have to think of that. There's another point. If you only rely on NFTs, suddenly, do you cannibalize the sale of physical products if it's not connected, as you mentioned before, the Phygital? Like, are we going all NFTs and forgetting actually what we sell is a physical, tangible product that people want to wear, connect to, touch and feel? So that's also something I think, in the long term to think, what's your clear NFT strategy and how do you do it? There's also, it's about, our industry is about scarcity, rarity, you know, diamonds, stones, exclusive design. So we release a lot of NFTs. You know, how do we find the right balance between creating something that still is an exclusive but inclusive, you know, because we want more people to buy into the sphere. And it's also like, you know, we talked about LVMH before, but we have to think that big brands that haven't gone into NFTs yet, Kering, Hermes, Chanel, you know, like we're talking about people who are leading the trend in terms of personalization, exclusive service. These are bearable goods, you know. So what, you know, they go for the trial, the cold case, for the Birkin case, but they're not interested to enter that sphere yet. So what does that mean? You know, there's caution. So there's also, you know, I think, you know, we need to see like not everybody is there yet. But, and then there's another element in that big picture, the consumer, the end consumer. Do they want it? You know, do they really want these NFTs? Like, you know, because we're talking, Romy and Reena at the forefront, and, you know, they're talking to people who are really interested already, embracing these communities, but it's a minority. We also have, even if there's a massive potential for growth, and the numbers are great, you know, by 2030, there should be billions in this sphere, but there's still the consumers. Do they really want it? Do they need it? And how can we help them, or can we attract them to their sphere? So I think there's a lot of things like this that we need to think in terms of challenges. You know, how do we have a clear strategy? I don't think the NFTs are a fad, otherwise I wouldn't be on this webinar. And I think they're really here to stay. I think the potential is tremendous. I think there's something really, really exciting happening, but there's also something to be clearly in mind is what do we offer the end consumer? And I think that's what our industry is all about. It's about who buys at the end, who buys your vision, who buys your products, who buys your brand ethics and mission. So, you know, there's something I think for everyone who gets into the NFT sphere to consider before entering it. Have a clear strategy and be very clear about your goals. Do you want to give back to your community and not make it a commercial project, and make it something that has a long-term value?
I think that's an amazing, a couple of amazing statements. I can't agree more with you, Esther. I think this is very, very important what you mentioned. So thanks for that. Let's go into the question, if that's okay. Let me see how this works on this crazy Q&A kind of things. I think there's a question from Susanna Bastian. Wearability in virtual reality. What platform do you focus on? And jewelry consists of such small objects, so you really have to be able to see those small objects in those pixelated environments. So do you have any idea about that?
Okay. Well, I mean, I think that it depends. So there's, you know, the filters that we use on Instagram. So I've been seeing a lot of jewelry brands and fashion brands, you know, adding their accessories to the Instagram filters. You know, just I've also seen filters used on Zoom, you know, for people to put, you know, their earrings on, and it's all, you know, another filter. But I also see a lot of people collecting things, you know, in the metaverse, like where they like to go to concerts and, you know, dress themselves and wear different brands, and like people are investing their money into that. So, I mean, I can only speak for my people, but my people are on Instagram. So if I were to launch like anything that, you know, was adding any value to anybody, you know, my art has the So Sketchy sunglasses, for instance, like my followers live on Instagram. So I would do a filter with those glasses on Instagram, because that's where my community can be found. If I just launched a pair of sunglasses in the metaverse, no one knew who So Sketchy was in the metaverse, you know, then that wouldn't make any sense. So for anyone to buy it. So I think that it kind of depends like where your customers live. You know, you could do a collection for the metaverse that is larger. I mean, you don't have to do everything to scale. Nothing in this world is necessarily to scale. People are making yachts in there. So, you know, you can really, I think, explore and make it your own way.
I agree. I agree.
And I would add that, like just what Adidas did right now. So Adidas has done something very interesting. They're the world's first to enable a three-dimensional avatar or a selfie avatar who also wears their products. So that means the rendering of it or the pixelated environment you're saying, you need to really develop that technology along so that it can be layered and it is metaverse compatible.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And then a question here from Sandro Tarazzi. He says, so what's actually the process of creating jewelry marketing NFT? So jewelry NFT, why don't we have a trading app for jewelry NFTs? For instance, he's saying apps like OpenSea attracts a young generation, but in jewelry and diamonds, there's a different target of customers. So that's actually two points. Should there be a trading platform for specifically jewelry NFTs or whatsoever? I have an idea about it, but maybe Reena, you want to say something about it first.
I think here, let's see, the whole idea of an NFT or a metaverse is that it is democratic, it's
Exactly.
everywhere. So that means you can have NFTs in your website and open it to existing customers. And by the way, even if you're on OpenSea, and that is the beauty of NFTs, that it sees no ageism. So I talk to 14-year-old creators on Twitter, and I talk to 65-year-olds, and all of them are creating. And so no gender biases or sexuality biases or, all of that is gone. So there's this kind of an open, interesting world. So even in OpenSea, if you go, there are so many jewelry brands that they're doing physical and a digital twin of that. So for example, you have a physical piece of jewelry and you connect it with a certificate or a NFT or a digital image of it or a video of it and connect it to the either put it on OpenSea or you put it in your own platform. So how you're going to put it, forward is really up to you. You can create an environment very easily as far as you make it compatible with your blockchain technology, have your smart contract and metadata all figured out. I think it should be easy.
Yeah, and what I would like to add, Reena, is, and maybe if others want to chip in as well, the gemstone business and the jewelry business often says, well, it's different here. We are different. It's special. It's different. Well, I think we should open up way more from a gemstone industry and a jewelry industry, parts of the jewelry industry, by saying, no, we want to be part of that bigger democratic platform like an OpenSea, and not create a special channel again, because then we put ourselves in isolation again.
We're putting ourselves in silos.
Yes, exactly. When we talk about CSR or ESG issues, we always put ourselves in isolation because with us it's different. No, let's be part of this whole thing. So, okay. How would you suggest a brand starts an entire collection in the metaverse? That's a question from Amelia Hart. Who wants to answer that one? How do you suggest a brand start an entire collection in the metaverse? So basically starting up a new business in the metaverse with NFTs. That's an interesting one. Happy to give it to Reena.
So I think when you look at this whole idea of NFTs and metaverse is such a large looming concept, right? Everybody's saying metaverse. So let's very quickly understand. Metaverse are these immersive, 3D multi-level worlds that we believe are virtual worlds that are there and will exist and grow. So that means, and how are metaverse powered? They're powered by, artificial intelligence, augmented reality, VR, AR, and AI. And what NFTs become then are the currencies or tools to enter the metaverse. So they're almost like the tickets to enter the metaverse. So for example, if you made a piece of jewelry and you want to enter the metaverse, for example, you want to go into the game, or you want to go shopping, or you want to socialize and meet a friend, have a coffee in metaverse, and you want to wear a certain jewelry or diamond, you need some sort of three-dimensionality, right? I mean, I'm just putting it in a very layman term. So how are you going to enable that? So perhaps the way to do that is through an NFT, because now that's already compatible to these different layers. And so what you need is interoperable systems, interoperable platforms, and just a little bit of an understanding of that and tie it together.
Can I just add something I thought that was so helpful, but I would say any type of creative process, it doesn't matter if it's the NFT, an NFT, the metaverse, or the real process comes with a vision. I think as a designer, whatever you want to launch, your collection, you have to have a vision. It's not a gimmick. It's not because it's going into the metaverse that it's going to have a different approach initially. You will need to know what do you want to create? Who do you create it for? You know, I mean, I think what NFTs I found very exciting. I'm thinking of people who don't have the financial resources yet, who can create their vision. They can say, if I had, I could use this gemstone, I could use this specific cut, I could use all these things, this, you know, is it possible to do it physically yet? Maybe not, but at least it gives a vision to your potential collectors. So I think that would be, you know, I don't think because we move into the metaverse, we're not changing the core of what jewelry design is. It's just starting from the same source, from authentic, you know, from your authentic voice and your authentic vision. And then you use all the practicals that Reena has just described. I think, you know, the two together are very powerful, but they can't go without, it's not a project. Let's do an NFT. Let's go into the metaverse. No. I think first you want to create a very strong identity. You have an identity as a designer and you have a voice and a signature, but you're just going to use this exciting space to express it and communicate it to potential clients.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Very important point. You know, because you know, the amount of questions I get, and it's overwhelming. You know, sometimes I can answer, but sometimes I'm not able to. But the questions are, I want to get into NFT space. You know, let's do a project together. Let's do a collab together. Here, my first question is, why do you want to get into the NFT space? What is that you want to bring? Are you interested in technology? Are you, you know, where are you coming from? So you really need to figure out, what is your brand? You know, what is your company all about? Is it really natural to your DNA to expand into this digital world? Because in some cases, maybe you perhaps want to just stay in the physical world. And in some case, you want to merge the physical and digital together. And in other cases, like Sonia said, brilliant idea that I want to go space I can't go right now, but perhaps I can travel through this virtual world. So maybe you're a jewelry designer and you don't have multi-million-dollar budget, or, you know, you don't have that money. You don't have family background. I don't come from a family of jewelers. So I understand that. So, but you have imagination, and imagination is power. So you have these tools that you can use to create this fabulous jewelry and world and weave a world for the world to see. Who knows, there could be a collab, you know, maybe Karthi comes and says that I want to work with you.
Yeah, exactly. And I think if it's just like you wake up in the morning, you hear about NFTs, so let's do some NFTs. That's the recipe for disaster, I can tell you. And I see it as another public space. We have the physical world, we have the internet world, we have the metaverse. So basically, it's another public space. So, okay, I think we should round up here. We answered some of the questions which I thought at this moment were most relevant. Thank you so much. Any last remarks, Reena? Any last remarks from your side before we really round up?
Thank you all for being here, and all, you know, I've been reading the chat messages and they're brilliant. All I want to say is that, listen, guys, you are interested. If you're in this panel, you're listening, you're already ahead. You're already ahead of the game. So if you have a conversation, ask people. It's very simple. Look at people, what they're doing, people who already have NFT collections. How did their mind work? And is that something that is interesting for you? You know, so connect with people, read blogs, you know, just go down the rabbit hole, because digital world is not going anywhere. And I think if you look at, when we look at our own identities, digital is just an expansion of that. We've already been living in this world. So I would like to welcome you all. Join me and join all of us.
Exactly. And have a lot of fun, serious fun together. Romy, some last words from your side.
Yeah, absolutely. I just wanted to reassure everybody that there is a place to start from. And I know that this world can be incredibly intimidating and there's a lot to soak in, but just know that we all started somewhere and we're really only scratching the surface here of where this could go. So if you do have any questions or if you want to connect with other people who are in this world, feel free to do so. Because if there's anything I've learned in this NFT space is that there is this amazing sense of friendship and curiosity and a helping hand. So feel free to do that. And it's not as a competitive environment as I feel that I've been in my life. So yeah, just for some motivational outreach, just go for it. But thank you for having me.
Wonderful remarks. Thank you, Romy. Thank you so much, and a lot of fun with the Queen this weekend, right? And Sonia, last but not least, of course. So your final remarks, maybe, or some thoughts for the weekend going forward for the listeners or the viewers.
So thank you so much to everyone for this conversation. I really enjoyed it and I learned all the time. So that was really, really great. I think, when we look at when people are reluctant to embrace technology and the digital world, is because they think it's maybe they're going to lose the personal touch and the personal connection. But I think what we've seen and what we're seeing is actually you can really build very strong community. And the human touch is not going to disappear from this community. It's not like this impersonal, robotic environment. On the contrary, you can have more meaning, more connection with people that are living in another, so far away from you that you never have the chance to meet. And, and I would love this NFT that connects an artisanal miner to the end wearer of a piece of jewelry. That's what I'm dreaming of, that this is where we're heading to. That we actually really, like people have these commercials about, I made you jewelry, I made you clothes on the board. And, suddenly you don't need that. You can have it in your NFT. So that's what I hope. I hope it creates more connections and more meaning and, and more personal touch, actually, than, that we have already in our industry, because that's all it's all about, really, is the people.
I think you're totally right. It's all about people. And I think with this webinar organized by GemAtlas and Nicole, thank you again. I think we create already a new community, and hopefully I see a lot of Q&As going back and forward and remarks and people referring to each other. So that's already creating a community. So let's keep that thought live. And of course, I wish Reena also a lot of success with your fundraising for Greenland Ruby. I'm not allowed to make any commercials here, but it is for the Pink Polar Bear Foundation, which is an amazing organization. So a good example of NFTs in live action. But thanks again. It was wonderful. I'm hoping to see you soon again. Have a beautiful weekend. And all the viewers and listeners, thanks so much. And see you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much to all four of you for sharing such valuable insights and giving your time and your expertise.
Thank you all. Take care. Bye-bye.